they found out is that people that have higher leg strength have significantly decreased risk of dying from everything. Everything. Hello and welcome to the Weaponized Body Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ryan Hewitt, here with you for another exciting episode. Today, we're going to touch on a topic of movement. And this title of this podcast today is called Why You Should Never Skip Leg Day. I'm talking to you, all the guys out there especially. I see all the ladies training their booty and their legs all the time, but you dudes, man, I see you training your upper body, doing the curls for girls, and every day is chest day. But if you're skipping leg day, that's a big, big no-no, a big mistake. So I'm going to talk about reasons that you probably know why you shouldn't skip leg day. I'm going to touch on those. But I'm going to touch on also maybe some surprising reasons why you should never skip leg day that you may have never considered before. So we're going to talk about why leg strength is super critical for health, performance, longevity. And I can tell you as a practitioner, I see patients every single week who skip leg day. And these guys, I'm going to pick on the guys, especially, have things like chronic low back pain and knee pain. I see that a whole ton. And the reason being is when your lower body becomes deconditioned, you end up with all kinds of imbalances. And especially if you're somebody who's a desk jockey and you sit all day long, you're going to have lower cross syndrome, which is tight low back, tight hips, weak core, and weak glutes. It's an epidemic in this society, as well as knee pain. If you have weak legs, man, I've seen many, many knee problems that could just be resolved with a little bit of leg strength. And this is always when we get these guys out of pain, the next recommendation is, to make sure you get your butt in the gym. But anyway, so these surprising reasons you may not know about when you skip leg day, you're doing your testosterone a huge disservice. Your legs are the largest muscle groups in your body. And when you're not training legs, you are not getting the benefits of testosterone boosts. Also, your brain is heavily reliant on movement to function optimally. And when you're not stimulating your legs, particularly with exertion, you're leaving money on the table when it comes to optimal central nervous system and brain function. Of course, pain avoidance. If you want to stay out of pain, particularly you want to keep the cartilage in your knees and you want to have a bulletproof low back, you better be training legs. And not to mention, for quality of life reasons. So on this first part of this podcast, we'll talk about how your legs are your foundation. It's the foundation or locomotion of human movement. So it's the largest muscle group in your body. Of course, largely made up of your quads and hamstrings. We'll also throw the glutes in there and your what are called your adductors and abductors that move your legs side to side. The lower leg as well that have your calves and soleus and tibialis anterior, all those muscle groups. They're responsible for your ability to move. We're bipedal. So not just walking, we're talking walking, running, lunging, squatting, bending over, picking up your kids, being able to pick up a golf ball out of the hole when you're hoping to golf when you're 60 years old. All these things require optimal leg strength for stability, to maintain your independence, your ability to get off the toilet, stand up from a chair, etc. Here's what a lot of people don't know, that a lot of your leg muscles are considered core muscles. So check this out. Your glutes, first of all, your glute max, your glute medius, glute minimus, those are all attached to your pelvis. Those are core muscles. All your pelvic floor muscles, those are all trained when you do your lower body training. We're talking about all that stuff that holds the lower bowl of your pelvis. Your adductors attached to your pelvis, those are your groin muscles. The ones that attach kind of to the side of your butt that move your legs outwards, which are called your abductors. There's a quad muscle that attaches to your pelvis and your hamstrings. weak hamstrings is something that I think is a major epidemic in this country. Um, Responsible for a lot of knee pain could be prevented by just more robust hamstring training. Anyway, the muscles that I just mentioned are responsible for all that stuff, right? Number two, muscle mass and metabolic health is intimately connected. So when you train your legs, you bring up your muscle mass. Being the largest muscle groups in your body, you want that. You may have heard of something called basal metabolic rate. When people refer to your metabolism, it's what your body burns as far as um, caloric fuel for you to just live, for you to just be alive, right? I mean, if you laid on the couch all day, your BMR is what is required to just keep your body functioning and stay alive. So for digestion, for your immune system to function, your brain to operate, all these things, require calories, but so do your muscles. Your muscles require a tremendous amount of fuel, which is why you're hearing this more and more, that for anyone who's interested in weight loss, anyone who's interested in lowering their body fat, not just looking better naked, but you want to be more metabolically fit. You want to improve your blood work biomarkers. You want to prevent cancer, diabetes, neurodegenerative disease. Train legs. Like if you only did one thing, if you just strength train your legs, you'd have a better life, 100%. When you train legs, it improves something called your insulin sensitivity. So insulin is that hormone made by your pancreas. Okay, your pancreas is one of your endocrine organs. When you have exercise demands or you consume carbohydrate, what happens, or sugar, in other words, is your body secretes this hormone called insulin. Insulin is like the key that attaches to your cells that allows sugar to enter. So it allows you to burn calories. When you have more muscle mass, you don't need as much insulin in order to do the same work. Especially if you're training, there's a certain amount of calorie and sugar that is burned without the use of insulin. So your body just gets really, really good at using insulin, so you don't need to make as much of it. Okay, pre-diabetes and diabetes, this happens when your body becomes just exhausted from making so much of this hormone. So inevitably, it lowers your risk of type 2 diabetes. Okay, you might not be worried about that right now if you're in your 30s or 40s. But I tell you what, if this is something, I hate to use that runs in your family. I like to joke that usually the problem is that nobody runs in your family. But if you have blood sugar issues in your lineage, you should be acutely aware of this. And this is something that is like one of my sayings that I use almost daily with my patients, is that today, the choices that you make today, that's going to impact significantly the results you have 20 years from now. Whatever you're doing consistently today, that's going to be, that's going to equal your results 20 years from now. So all that compounding interest of all of these good choices you make matter. Okay. Same thing with the detrimental choices like skipping leg day. You skip leg day, for 10 years, you're going to be weaker. You're going to have higher chances of, being sicker and lower hormone optimization. Not to mention, you're going to have less balanced cognitive function and so on and so forth. Bone density is something that is talked about a lot, especially with older women, but this is shockingly a problem even amongst younger people these days. What a lot of people don't realize is that your bone is metabolic tissue just as your muscle is. How do you train bones? You put stress on them. How do you train muscles? You put stress on them, right? Break them down, put demands on them, and your body builds it back up. So weight-bearing exercises like squats, picking things up off the floor, aka deadlifting, increases your bone density in like your hips and spine. This significantly reduces your risk of fracture, just makes you a more robust, harder to kill person. Not to mention that strength training improves your balance, coordination. So it significantly lowers your risk of falls, right? Particularly as you get older. So let's talk about some of those like surprising benefits. So the things I mentioned already, you probably already knew, right? Training legs, improves your metabolic health, right? Improves your quality of life, decreases your risk of falling, improves your bone mass. But check this out. It significantly impacts your hormone function, such as testosterone. So, if you're like me, you started lifting weights when you were younger, due to insecurity, and I wanted to look better for girls. And I remember reading like the old Arnold Bible of strength training. It was one of the first strength training books I ever read and used to kind of teach myself how to lift weights. And one of the things that old school bodybuilders would talk about is how training legs boosts your testosterone. And this was kind of bro science for a while, but what they figured out is this is absolutely true. Uh, go figure, training large muscle groups like your legs elicits and triggers greater hormone response compared to just like doing bicep curls, tricep extensions, shrugs, abs, things like that, or even bench press. If all you're doing is training your upper body, you're leaving a whole ton of money on the table when it comes to pulses of testosterone. I found this study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology, and they examined the effects of doing six sets of 10 reps. That's it, of just squats and leg presses. And what they found is that both groups had increased testosterone. Right? They both acutely increased their T levels. But guess what? The squats elicited an even higher hormone response compared to the leg presses. Why? Well, because squats are an exercise that's called a compound lift. Okay. A compound lift refers to, moving your entire, body through range of motion. So you're using multiple muscle groups in order to move the weight. Let's say you're doing barbell back squats. You load up a barbell on your back or your shoulders, or even in a front position. You're lowering the weight and you're lifting the weight by standing up. You're using all kinds of muscles to do that, right? You're using stability muscles of your upper body, you're bracing your core, and you're using almost all of your lower body muscles. Okay. A lot of people think that's just like training your quads, which is totally not true. You're giving your quads a significant stimulus, but you're also giving glutes, hamstrings, quads, even your lower legs, your core, all kinds of stuff is firing off, and that's a significant stimulus to your nervous system as well. So that was something that I really kind of knew that was true, but science is showing more and more that training your lower body muscles is really important for hormone optimization. Let's talk about the brain and cognitive function when it comes to strength training your lower legs. So research is showing that leg strength is linked to better brain function as well, particularly slower decline in your cognitive faculties. Okay. So the nervous system benefits from lower body strength due to that demand on the nervous system. So when you're doing like real heavy loads, the reason that you feel fatigued is because of a lot of the central nervous system load that you're placing a demand on, because you're firing so many motor units in the muscles that it's really just stimulating the hell out of your spinal cord as well as your brain, which is very, very good for stimulating growth to your muscles, also to increase the function of your nervous system. Exercise is termed something called a hormetic stress. I know I use a lot of these scientific terms and some of these hard to understand things, and I try to break them down as best I can. But a hormetic stress refers to something that it's almost like the saying that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's a lot of truth to that, especially exercise is a really good example of a hormetic stress. It's something that like breaks you down, but what happens is your body responds to build you back up even stronger than you were before. Your nervous system is responsible for this. Okay. It's particularly your central nervous system that is the stimulus to fire those muscles. And when your muscles break down, you refuel your body, and your nervous system helps that healing process to build you back up. So one of the studies that I found that speaks to this is a study in the Journal of Gerontology. They examined 324 female twins over a 10-year period, which I thought that was pretty cool. So keep in mind, it's kind of an observational study, but what they found is the participants that had greater leg strength at the start of the study exhibited better cognitive or better brain function, and they had fewer cognitive changes associated with aging, right, compared to their twin. And you can't find a better like control comparative is like find your twin and then do different things than them and then see the results afterwards. Um, so the other thing too is improve cardiovascular health. So a lot of the dogmatic thinking here is that you need to do cardio in order to improve your cardiovascular function, which is true. In order to exercise your heart, you need to do aerobic exercise, which I'm a big fan of aerobic exercise, but I see far too many people that they only do cardio. I see this particularly with people that are afraid to strength train, right? They're afraid to get hurt. Also, I see this with a lot of people that are just committed to weight loss, and they think that I'll just burn a bunch of calories and put myself in a caloric deficit, and what'll happen is I'll lose weight. Technically that can work, but the results typically are not what they're hoping for. Number one, remember when you strength train, you improve your basal metabolic rate, right? You put muscle on your body burns more calories just even at rest. So that's one of the huge realizations that people need to have is that you need more muscle in order to like achieve those weight loss goals. But leg training improves circulation as well. It strengthens the heart and increases venous return. So in other words, when you're doing squats, you're doing deadlifts, you're doing Bulgarian split squats, these are different examples of exercise of your lower body. It gets your heart pumping, right? So you are getting, a cardiovascular workout. I think a lot of bodybuilders joke that their cardio is leg day, which should not be the only cardio you do, but it does contribute to cardio benefits, particularly those compound lifts. Remember, a compound lift is like full body movements. So deadlifts, squats, lunges. You could consider like a compound movement, like a sled push, something like that. There's an article in the British Medical Journal that followed 8,000, a little over 8,700 men aged 20 to 80. And what they found is higher levels of leg strength inversely associated with death from all causes, including cancer, which also adds to the protective effects of the cardiorespiratory fitness. So let me break that down. So what they found out is that people that have higher leg strength, they have significantly decreased risk of dying from everything you can think of, right? Particularly all those chronic diseases, heart disease, diabetes, neurodegenerative changes like Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer. So those are kind of the top four, but we're talking everything. There's also benefits that they found with training legs to digestive health. Believe it or not, if you train legs, it actually improves your digestion health by increasing blood flow. When you increase blood flow through your body, it just helps everything. Lymphatic drainage is kind of like the sewer system of your body. It increases that circulation of blood and drainage, which supports digestion, toxin elimination. And particularly when you train legs, it's one of the most significant core types of exercises you can do, which engages your pelvic floor and a lot of your core muscles that can indirectly strengthen your abdominal muscles and improve all your gut motility. That's why one of the recommendations I have for a lot of people that are trying to lose weight is just to move more, but walking after you eat. Even just walking after you eat reduces insulin responses, increases insulin sensitivity, gets your digestion moving. So leg training can do that as well. So one of the last things I want to touch on when it comes to leg day is training for longevity, right, and performance. So longevity, like strong legs are just the key to longevity. One of the things that's come out recently when they study older populations that age successfully. I love that term, successful aging, but just age gracefully, is that they have strong legs. And they also maintain things like mobility, and which directly impacts your quality of life, right? So you may have heard of how grip strength is inversely correlated with all causes mortality, but leg strength as well. I think leg strength is even just as, or maybe even more critical than grip strength. So the two main things, and you'll hear this from like leading experts in the longevity field, is VO2 max, okay, which is your, how much oxygen you consume during an aerobic event. It just means like how cardiovascularly fit are you, right? How fit are you as far as like aerobically, and how strong are you, particularly your legs, okay? Grip strength and legs, we'll talk about. I'll kind of keep those both together, but we're just talking about legs specifically, like leg strength and VO2 max. If you have those two things, man, you're harder to kill for sure. There's a cool study called the ABC study, Aging and Body Comp study, again, out of the Journal of Gerontology. They found that quad and grip strength is inversely correlated with all-cause mortality. So exactly what I was saying. There's also a study called the Baltimore Longitudinal Study. They studied over 1,000 men over 25 years. They found that lower muscle mass is associated with all-cause mortality. So again, they're just finding over and over and over that when you carry muscle into your later years, particularly lower body muscle, and in specific strength, okay, because they found that even you don't even have to have a huge amount of like volume of muscle mass, but you just need strength. So the stronger you are, okay, the harder you are to kill, right? The more protective you are against all cause mortality. So all diseases, including falls and fractures, accidents, injuries, all that shit. I'm going to talk about an obvious one here. Leg strength is super critical for athletic performance. Duh. But think about it. How many dudes do you know that decide they're going to go start playing men's league hockey, or they're going to go start playing flag football, or they just break out into a flag football game after their fantasy football draft, or, softball beer leagues, whatever it is. And how many of these dudes end up tearing hamstrings, snapping Achilles tendons, tearing up their knee, right? All this shit is because they're just like fragile people, because they sit on their ass all day, or they do repetitive motions all day long. They get in and out of their truck, right? And they do the same movement activities every day, or, they do the same workout routine that, right, is minimally leg involved. So what I'm saying is, whether you're a weekend warrior or you're an elite athlete, your legs is just the foundation of your power, speed, agility, all that stuff. So, anybody's program, if you want to be rounded, you want to be athletic, you want to be protected against all cause mortality, you want like titanium bones, you want to be hard to kill, here's what you need in your program. Okay, you need some pushes in there. Okay, sled pushes, something where you're just like pushing something with a little leg power, right? Some explosive butt power behind it. You're lunging, so you're doing like single leg type of movements. You're doing some speed and agility work, right? So you're doing like a little bit of sprinting, or you're doing a little bit of rebounding, jumping, and of course, squatting and deadlifting, or just picking things up like Romanian deadlifts, single leg deadlifts, or, stiff legged deadlifts, or just a traditional deadlift, something where you're hinging and picking things up with load. It just enhances all your athletic abilities. And here's the thing, the domino effect of skipping leg day is, it leads to all kinds of imbalances. And I touched on this with my story in the beginning, is all these dudes that I see that have imbalances, like weak glutes. They have that lower cross syndrome I mentioned, right? Tight low back, tight hip flexors from sitting. They got weak hamstrings, weak glutes, weak core. And when you have these chronic imbalances, you're going to have back pain. No question. It's not even like if, it's when. You'll have back pain. And this is largely the reason a lot of people end up with back pain. Very few people come to me with back pain that did it because they hurt it in the gym. Now it happens. Like, I've hurt my low back in the gym, trust me. But I see way more people that have back pain, not from the gym, but from like bending over and picking up a pencil, right? Oh, I twisted and grabbed something from the back seat, blew up my back. I was carrying groceries and I slipped and I blew up my back, hurt my hip. Uh, this weak glutes, weak hamstrings, weak core, it contributes to low back pain, knee pain, hip pain, more so than anything that I see in my practice. And guess what? If you want to have really solid upper body lifts, like if you're someone who trains upper body a lot, a bench press, shoulder press, arm training, all that stuff. If you have strong legs to support your lower body lift or your upper body lifts, you're going to have better performance, 100%. And that's why I'm a big proponent of people that learn how to strength train properly. I belong to Lifetime Fitness, and I'm there 5 times a week, typically, if not more. And there's a lot of bad form happening in there. And I'd prefer to see people in the gym lifting shitty than sitting on the couch. Trust me, I'm not critical of people doing that, but I'm a huge proponent of people learning how to perform, particularly the basics, well. Like I said, pushing, pulling, hinging, squatting, and pulling, pushing, pulling, hinging, squatting. Well, yeah, I think I named them all. Pretty much, all planes of movement. Learning how to do those things really well. Hire a trainer, even if you hire one for a short period of time to show you the ropes. Myself, I've spent thousands and thousands of hours learning how to do things and doing them horribly at first. So I've learned the hard way. I've worked through injuries, but I've also invested a tremendous amount of time and money learning from some of the best powerlifters in the world, learning from some of the best Olympic lifting coaches in the world, spending tons of hours online study and just like personal practice and all that stuff. And like, I feel like sometimes my form isn't all dialed in. So it's really important to learn how to do it well. I think I'm a huge proponent of, hiring a trainer. So, breaking down some practical takeaways, from this lesson today, this podcast. So, here's what I want you to start thinking about is train your legs. Okay. Squats, deadlifts, lunges, step ups, right? Single leg training like Bulgarian split squats, sled pushes, stuff like that. You should be programming most, if not all those, multiple days a week. You don't have to do all of those, multiple days a week, but just getting most of those things in a couple days a week, right? I'm a huge proponent of training legs twice a week, 2, even sometimes 3 days a week. Everyone should be strength training at least twice a week. Okay. 3 times a week is better than 2 times a week. But focusing on both strength, speed and agility, and hypertrophy. Okay. What does that mean? Well, it just means you have some movements that require you to be explosive. Okay. With like speed and agility. So we're talking just like maintaining the ability to jump, right? I can't tell you how many dudes I take care of in their 40s and 50s that haven't left the ground, right? They haven't leapt even 5 inches off the floor in years, right? Just losing all this function and ability, right? You lose the ability to sprint, how to, jump, how to lunge, all this stuff. So just having, and trust me, if you haven't done this stuff for a while, start really slow, right? But focus on that agility, focus on strength training. So you're doing some of those lifts with like heavy-ish weight. Of course, again, with the caveat that you're starting slow if you haven't done this for a while. And hypertrophy, that means just, getting a pump, right? Pushing blood into the muscle with great mind muscle connection. So you're really focusing and concentrating and slowing the lift down. So that's a huge benefit to be able to push blood into the muscle, contract those tissues, and build up a little bit of robustness in the muscle, and incorporating like I said, unilateral work or single leg work too, right? We live our lives, not symmetrically, right? So when you pick up that UPS box off of your step, okay, it's not shaped like a barbell. You're not pulling it off the floor symmetrically. So you're going to use the fundamentals and the strength that you forge in the gym, but you're also going to need to do some single leg training and imbalance training in order to make you a little more bulletproof, so to speak. So my advice for beginners, and again, talk to your doctor before you start any program if you have health conditions. If you have never strength trained before, just start with body weight exercises. This is the advice that I give all my patients who do not do strength training. I have an app that I use for my Weaponized Body clients, and I have a body weight only program I'll give to them for free for the first 2 months. And it's really just very basic dialed back body weight stuff, but even body weight resistance training is really, really important for just starting strength and just gently progressing to the weight room, and making sure you're focusing on form and control to avoid injury. That's really, really important. So in order for me to recap this, I think that the main benefits that you learned about today is that leg strength training is like fundamental and foundational. You cannot have a rounded program. You can't be a functional human being without leg strength, right? And some of the surprising benefits is it improves your hormone health, right? If you want optimized natural testosterone, you need to be training legs. A very surprising benefit to a lot of people is it makes you smarter. It prevents cognitive decline. It gets your brain fired up and more prepared to learn. There's a fantastic book out there called Spark. It was written by an MD named John Rattay. And this book touched on how exercise basically like preps your brain and fertilizes your brain for learning. Brain-derived neurotropic factor. It's one of the things your brain secretes. Fancy term, right? It just means it's like fertilizer to your brain. You want to be smarter. A lot of people are obsessed with I'm going to buy these keto powders. I'm going to buy this ashwagandha and this fancy mushroom, and I'm going to grab these pills, and I'm going to take nicotine pouches, and I'm going to do all these nootropic things. It's like, fuck, man, are you even like training legs? That's free. Just do some squats, some lunges, right? That's more of a nootropic than a lot of this crap you're going to put in your body. So one of the other benefits is cardiovascular function. Your heart's going to be healthier. You're going to have better heart health. You're going to have better aerobic fitness, believe it or not, even though you're not running. If you just train legs, squat, deadlift, lunge, push a sled, you're going to have better cardio health, which makes sure that you live as long as possible. Prioritize leg day in your routine. Make sure you're doing it 2 or 3 days a week. It's an investment in your future health, right? That whatever you do now consistently has everything to do with the health you will enjoy 20 years from now, or right, the regrets you'll have 20 years from now, right? So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you'll consider starting to train those lower limbs of yours. So if you like this episode, if you're digging the podcast so far, I appreciate you guys listening. Just share the episode, leave a review. Tune in next week. Of course, we're going to talk about mindset. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. And I hope this helps you optimize your health and fitness. And I will see you next week.